My name is Marian Parnell.
Okay.
I'm originally from here.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 1946 to John and Elizabeth Pettigrew. We had a farm up on the Callan Falls Highway. It was in McCormick County.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had a 248 acre right outside of Mount Carmel,
Okay.
going toward Callan Falls. And so we lived there for about 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather had another farm over on 823, my dad's dad, who was Robert Marian Pettigrew.
Okay.
And so he lived there until he died, and my grandmother finally sold it, except for 20 acres of land, and then my dad and mom lived on the 20 acres.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember there were two guys that worked for Dad
Mm-hmm.
when they, during the summer, because they went to school here in McCormick.
Okay.
And they were Arthur and Henry Banks.
Okay.
And they worked for Dad. They could pick about 700 pounds of cotton a day. And I'm telling you,
Yes.
they worked hard, but you know, they wanted to make sure they finished school and had their clothes for the school year and everything.
So he would pay them to pick the cotton?
Yes, he would pay them to pick the cotton.
That's a lot of cotton.
Yeah.
They come with a truck to pick it up, do you think?
Yeah, we would go out into the fields and pick up the bales after they had them in big burlap sheets, and they'd put the cotton on the sheets and wrap it up. Then Dad would weigh it. He had the scales on the back of his truck, and he would weigh their cotton, so he would know how much it was, and then pay them the amount that it was going for at that time, which wasn't very much, but
That's a lot of cotton.
But anyway, you were glad when the cotton did produce like that, because you knew you'd probably have a good year.
Right.
And everything.
The farms and community had more machinery than I thought, because
Yeah.
I thought you all had a truck. I thought most people brought their cotton to the gin in
Wagons and
with
with
mules.
mules. No,
and I know
we-
they did say some people had a truck too.
Yeah, we had
I mean,
we had a truck, and most of them would wear the gloves with the fingers cut out just a little bit, so that would help to protect them some. But they would go home at night and probably run Vaseline or whatever that was something that they could soften them up, and then they'd put some type of antibiotic or whatever on the tips of their fingers so that they could, you know,
Pick the
heal
next
and
day.
pick the next day. And sometimes you picked every other day because some of the cotton might not be ready to pick and everything. Sometimes all the fields come in at the same time. And so you would have a lot of people out there picking, but then some fields might be a little bit, maybe a week or two later. And so,
Because they plant them in
yeah, and so
Succession.
they'd have a little time to rest and do other things and go to, you know, like the guys and the girls. I don't think we had many girl pickers. We always had the guy pickers out there, and they'd come after school and pick till dark.
How often did he gin cotton?
You would gin it by the week.
Okay.
Yeah, he ginned by the week. And because the growing season and the picking season was only a span of about a month or so. And it was always after you tried to get it to come in. Sometimes you tried to get it to come in before the kids went back to school, but sometimes it was a later cotton. And so sometimes they wound up picking till it started around Labor Day, and they'd pick until maybe October,
Right.
you know, September, October.
Did you all have animals?
We had cows, and when my dad got out of the farming business, especially the cotton, because of, you know, the industry was, then the Bollweevil had come in and everything was kind of dying out, and then they'd plant something else for the winter, like wheat and things like that. or that would be food for the cows and the livestock that you had on your farm. My dad had an underground silo, and that was the neatest thing. It was so cool in there.
This is the first time I've heard of an underground silo.
Yeah, it was an
here.
underground silo, and it was built on the property right across the little spring. We had a little creek. That's where we got our spring water, and it was so good. And Daddy would pump the water from the little creek in the spring, and he would do it for the cows and things like that. And then we had the well water for the house. But we loved the farm. We loved being out in the country, and we had a little country store.
Okay. And what was the name of the store?
Torsh's Store.
Okay.
Pat, the owner, he was from New York. And Irene, she was from McCormick. She lived up in the Bardo section. She was a Hodges.
Okay.
And so she lived up, and they met while he was in service. And he came south, and so they opened the little country store right up from our farm. And
so did you all make things and sell them at the store?
my mom would sell eggs there, and my aunt would too. They had the Jordan farm next door to us, about a half a mile from us. And my dad's other brother, he lived there. And then his other brother, Gaines, he lived in Abbeville County, just across the line, and he had a big farm, and so they all had cotton, and they all had cows. And and we would all gather at my grandfather's farm over on 823 for dinner, and
oh, that sounds so
all of
much
those
fun.
that we had the best times.
And did you all have gardens that you?
Yes, my mom put up food every year, planted a big old garden, and we had beef cows, and we had milk cows. We had Holsteins because Dad started to supplement his income. He started working for Abbeville Pasteurizing Company, and he drove the milk truck.
Oh.
And so they would take his milk, and then finally, after that closed down, he started selling milk to Pet Milk. And they would have a big old tanker that would come to the house early in the mornings and draw the milk. And so, but we just loved it growing up, and I wish, like I said, that my dad had not sold that farm, because I would be living up there on that farm right now.